She was the most powerful CEO in the tech industry until one freezing December night when she was ambushed in an underground parking structure and dragged toward a van. Her attackers thought they had it all planned out. They didn't count on him. A single father working the night shift, a man with a past he never spoke about, someone who moved through shadows with precision that couldn't be taught in any classroom. What started as one desperate moment in the dark would spiral into something neither of them expected: a fake engagement, a daughter who needed saving, a fortune at stake, and a love story built on secrets, sacrifice, and second chances. If you believe that even the most broken people deserve a shot at redemption, and that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the most impossible circumstances, then you're in the right place. Let's begin. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you. Make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The underground parking structure beneath Quantum Technologies' headquarters was a cathedral of concrete and shadow. 5 levels deep, stretching half a city block. It was the kind of place where sound traveled strangely. Footsteps echoed like whispers. Car engines rumbled like distant thunder. At 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday night in December, the structure was nearly empty. Just a handful of vehicles belonging to executives burning the midnight oil in one man, who had learned long ago how to move. Without making a sound, Nathan Scott adjusted the collar of his dark gray uniform and checked his watch. His shift had started at 10. By now, he'd already completed 2 full sweeps of levels 1 through 3. Checking door locks, monitoring security camera feeds from the mobile tablet clipped to his belt, and ensuring that every shadow held nothing more dangerous than old oil stains and forgotten umbrellas. He was good at his job. Too good, some might say. But Nathan preferred it that way: predictable, controlled, invisible. He moved through the fluorescent-lit corridors with the quiet efficiency of someone who had once moved through far more dangerous places. His boots, standard-issue security footwear, barely made a sound against the polished concrete. His hair, dark brown and cut short, was just long enough to avoid military precision, but neat enough to pass corporate standards. At 34 years old, Nathan Scott looked like exactly what he was: a single father working the graveyard shift to make ends meet. What he didn't look like was what he used to be. Quantum Technologies was one of the largest software development firms on the West Coast. Their headquarters in Silverton was a gleaming tower of glass and steel that rose 42 stories into the sky. During the day, the building buzzed with the energy of 1,500 employees. Programmers, designers, executives, interns. All of them chasing the next breakthrough, the next innovation that would change the world. At night, the building transformed. The lights dimmed. The hallways emptied. And Nathan Scott became one of 3 security guards responsible for keeping it all safe. He liked the night shift. It paid better, for one thing. The differential added an extra $2 per hour, which over the course of a year meant new shoes for Lily, her speech therapy sessions, the field trip fees her school kept sending home. But more than that, the night shift meant fewer people, fewer questions, fewer chances of someone recognizing the name Nathan Scott from a life he'd left behind 5 years ago. His radio crackled. "Scott, you copy?" It was Jenkins, the senior guard stationed at the main security desk on the ground floor. Nathan pressed the button on his shoulder mic. "Copy, level 4. All clear." "Roger that. Heads up, we've got one executive still in the building. Mia Davis, CEO. She's working late in her office on 42. Might come down to the executive parking level within the hour." Nathan frowned slightly. Executive parking was level 5, the deepest level, reserved for the company's top brass. It was also the most isolated. "Understood. I'll keep an eye out." Appreciate it. She usually gives us a heads up when she's leaving, but just in case. The radio went silent. Nathan continued his patrol, descending the ramp that spiraled down to level 5. The temperature dropped slightly as he went deeper. The air smelled of concrete dust and engine exhaust. The lighting here was dimmer, the shadows longer. Only 6 parking spaces on this level, each one marked with a name. Chief Technology Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operating Officer, and at the far end, closest to the private elevator that led directly to the executive suites, a space marked simply, CEO. A sleek, black sedan sat in the spot, European, expensive, probably cost more than Nathan made in 2 years. He walked past it, checking the perimeter, his eyes scanning the shadows out of habit. Everything looked normal, quiet, safe. Nathan paused near the elevator and pulled out his phone. A text message from his neighbor, Mrs. Chun. She was 72, a retired schoolteacher who lived in the apartment next door and watched Lily whenever Nathan worked nights. Lily's asleep. Had her snack and finished her homework. She asked me to tell you that she loves you and that you're her hero. Sweet dreams, Nathan. He smiled, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. Lily, 8 years old. Bright as the sun. Born with a hearing impairment that had required surgery when she was 3 and ongoing therapy ever since. Her mother had left when Lily was just 6 months old, unable to handle the diagnosis, the medical bills, the uncertainty. Nathan had never heard from her again. So it was just the two of them now. Father and daughter. A team. He typed back a quick reply. Thanks, Mrs. Chun, I owe you. Be home by 7. Nathan pocketed his phone and resumed his patrol. He had 4 more hours left on his shift. 4 more hours of walking these empty corridors, checking locks, watching shadows. Then he'd drive home, catch 3 hours of sleep while Lily got ready for school, and do it all over again. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what he'd imagined his life would look like when he was younger. But it was honest work. It kept them fed. It kept them safe. And safety, Nathan had learned the hard way, was worth more than anything. He was halfway back to the ramp leading to level 4 when he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Not an echo. Not the groan of old pipes or the hum of ventilation. Something else. A sharp intake of breath. A stumble. The scuff of heels against concrete. Nathan froze. His hand moved instinctively to the radio on his shoulder, but he didn't press the button. Not yet. Instead, he moved toward the sound, his footsteps silent, his breathing controlled. Years of training clicked into place like muscle memory. Assess the situation. Identify the threat. Act only when necessary. He rounded the corner near the CEO's parking space and stopped. The private elevator doors were open. And standing just outside them, illuminated by the harsh fluorescent light, was a woman. She wore a charcoal gray business suit, tailored and expensive. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She was holding her phone in one hand, her car keys in the other. And she was looking directly at 3 men who had just stepped out of the shadows. Nathan's pulse quickened. The men wore dark clothing, hoodies, gloves. One of them held something in his hand. A weapon, maybe a gun, maybe a knife. It was hard to tell from this distance. But what was clear, what was unmistakable, was the intent. The woman took a step back. One of the men grabbed her arm. She opened her mouth to scream, but another man clamped a hand over it, muffling the sound. Her phone clattered to the ground. Her keys followed. Nathan didn't think. He moved, fast, silent, closing the distance between them in seconds. The years fell away. The quiet life, the graveyard shift, the man who just wanted to stay invisible. Gone, replaced by something older. Something sharper. Something he'd promised himself he'd never use again. But promises, Nathan had learned, meant nothing when someone needed help. Nathan closed the distance in 4 strides. The men didn't hear him coming. They were too focused on their target, too confident in their plan. Big mistake. The first rule of any operation was to always watch your 6. They hadn't. And now they were about to pay for it. The man holding the woman's arm was the first to go down. Nathan grabbed his wrist, twisted it sharply to the left, and swept his legs out from under him in one fluid motion. The man hit the concrete hard, the air rushing out of his lungs in a surprised grunt. Nathan didn't wait to see if he'd get back up. He was already moving to the next target. The second man, the one with his hand over the woman's mouth, spun around. His eyes went wide behind his ski mask. He reached for something in his jacket, but Nathan was faster. A sharp jab to the solar plexus. A knee to the thigh. The man stumbled backward, gasping, and Nathan followed through with an elbow strike that sent him crashing into the side of the black sedan. The car alarm blared to life, the sound echoing through the parking structure like a siren. The third man, the one holding the weapon, a tactical baton Nathan noted, finally registered what was happening. He raised the baton and swung it hard toward Nathan's head. Nathan ducked, felt the air whoosh past his ear, and came up inside the man's guard. He grabbed the baton with his left hand, twisted it out of the man's grip, and delivered a precise strike to the side of his knee. The man howled in pain and collapsed. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story, 3 seconds. That's how long the entire confrontation had taken. 3 seconds to neutralize 3 threats. Nathan stood in the center of the chaos, breathing hard, the tactical baton still in his hand. The car alarm continued to wail. The woman stood frozen against the elevator doors, her eyes wide, her chest heaving. For a moment, neither of them moved. They just stared at each other. Her, trying to process what had just happened. Him, trying to remember why he'd promised himself he'd never do this again. Then training took over. Nathan dropped the baton and pulled the radio from his shoulder. "Jenkins, this is Scott, Code Red, Level 5. Executive Parking. 3 suspects. 1 victim. Send backup now. And call the police." Jenkins' voice crackled back, panicked. "Code Red? Scott, are you serious? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. Just send help, now." Nathan released the radio and turned to the woman. She was still pressed against the elevator, her hands shaking, her face pale. "Ma'am, are you okay? Are you hurt?" She blinked, as if coming out of a trance. "I don't know. I think so. I mean, no. I'm not hurt. I just need to breathe." Her voice was steady, surprisingly so, given what had just happened. But Nathan could hear the tremor underneath. Shock, adrenaline, fear. He took a step closer, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. "You're safe now. Help is on the way. Just try to stay calm." She looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. Her eyes, a striking shade of amber, scanned his face, his uniform, the badge clipped to his belt. "Your security." "Yes, ma'am." "Nathan Scott. Night shift. Nathan Scott." She repeated his name like she was trying to commit it to memory. "You just saved my life." Nathan shook his head. "I just did my job." "Your job?" She let out a short, breathless laugh. "Security guards don't move like that. They don't fight like that. Who are you?" Before Nathan could answer, one of the men on the ground groaned and tried to sit up. Nathan moved quickly, pulling zip ties from his belt and securing the man's wrists behind his back. He did the same to the other 2, working efficiently, methodically. By the time he was finished, the sound of footsteps echoed from the ramp above. Jenkins appeared first, followed by the other night shift guard, Rodriguez. Both of them stopped short when they saw the scene. 3 men on the ground, zip-tied and groaning. The CEO standing by the elevator, disheveled but unharmed. And Nathan, standing in the middle of it all, looking like he'd just finished a routine patrol. "Jesus Christ, Scott," Jenkins breathed. "What the hell happened here?" "Attempted kidnapping," Nathan said simply. "I intervened." Rodriguez was already on his radio, coordinating with the police. Jenkins moved to the woman, his tone shifting to something more professional. "Miss Davis, are you all right? Do you need medical attention?" Mia Davis, so that was her name. Nathan filed it away, along with the image of her amber eyes and the way she was still watching him, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "I'm fine," Mia said, her voice stronger now. "Thanks to him." She gestured to Nathan. Jenkins glanced at Nathan, then back at Mia. "We'll need to review the security footage. Get statements from everyone. The police will want to talk to you both." "Of course," Mia said. But her eyes never left Nathan. "I want to know everything about what just happened. And I want to know who you are, Mr. Scott." Nathan met her gaze for a brief moment. There was something in her expression. Gratitude, yes, but also curiosity, determination, the look of someone who didn't let things go easily. He looked away, focusing instead on the men on the ground. "I'm just security, ma'am. Nothing more." But even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. And from the way Mia Davis was looking at him, he suspected she knew it too. The police arrived 10 minutes later. 4 officers, followed by an ambulance and a swarm of corporate security personnel. The parking structure was cordoned off. Statements were taken. The 3 men were hauled away in handcuffs, their identities still unknown, their motives still unclear. Nathan gave his statement to a detective, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He kept it simple, factual. He'd been on patrol. He'd heard a disturbance. He'd intervened. She asked him about his background. He told her he'd worked in private security before taking this job. Not a lie, exactly. Just not the whole truth. When the detective finally let him go, Nathan looked around for Mia Davis. She was standing near her car, surrounded by executives and assistants who had rushed down from the upper floors. One of them, a man in his 50s with silver hair and an expensive watch, had his hand on her shoulder, speaking to her in low, urgent tones. Mia nodded along, but her eyes kept drifting back to Nathan. He turned away and headed toward the ramp. He'd done his job. She was safe. That was all that mattered. But as he climbed the ramp to level 4, he couldn't shake the feeling that this night had changed something. Something he couldn't quite name. Something he wasn't sure he was ready for. The sun was just beginning to rise when Nathan finally pulled his truck into the parking lot of Willow Creek Apartments. The building was old, built sometime in the 70s, with faded blue paint and a perpetually broken fountain in the courtyard. It wasn't much, but the rent was affordable, the neighbors were quiet, and it was only a 15-minute drive from Lily's school. That was all that mattered. Nathan climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, his legs heavy with exhaustion. The adrenaline from the night had long since worn off, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness that made every step feel like a mile. He fumbled with his keys at the door, marked 3C, finally getting it open and stepping inside. The apartment was small. A living room that doubled as a dining room. A kitchenette with outdated appliances. 2 bedrooms barely big enough for a bed and a dresser. But it was home. And right now, it was the only place Nathan wanted to be. Mrs. Chun was asleep on the couch, a crochet blanket draped over her lap, her reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. Nathan smiled and gently shook her shoulder. "Mrs. Chun, I'm home." She stirred, blinking up at him with groggy eyes. "Nathan, oh goodness, what time is it?" "A little after 7. Sorry I'm late." "Long night." Mrs. Chun sat up, adjusting her glasses. "Everything okay?" Nathan hesitated. The memory of Mia Davis' amber eyes flashed through his mind. The feel of the tactical baton in his hand. The sound of the car alarm. "Yeah, everything's fine. Just a lot of paperwork." Mrs. Chun didn't look convinced, but she didn't press. She never did. That was one of the things Nathan appreciated about her. She knew when to let things be. Lily was an angel, as always. She had her cereal, finished her math homework, and practiced her speech exercises. "She's still asleep." "Thank you, seriously. I don't know what I'd do without you." Mrs. Chun waved him off, gathering her things. "You'd figure it out. You always do." She paused at the door, her expression softening. "You're a good father, Nathan. Don't forget that." Nathan nodded, his throat tight. "Thanks." After Mrs. Chun left, Nathan locked the door and stood in the quiet apartment. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant chirp of birds outside. He moved to the small kitchen and filled a glass with water, drinking it slowly, trying to calm the restless energy still buzzing under his skin. He'd gone 5 years without using those skills. 5 years of keeping his head down, staying invisible, building a life that didn't require violence or danger or the weight of decisions that could cost lives. And in one night, it had all come rushing back. He set the glass down and walked quietly to Lily's room. The door was cracked open, and he pushed it gently, peeking inside. Lily was asleep, her small body curled under a purple comforter decorated with stars. Her hearing aids sat on the nightstand beside her bed, next to a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunks that she'd had since she was a baby. Nathan leaned against the doorframe, watching her breathe, the rise and fall of her chest steady and peaceful. This was why he'd left. This was why he'd walked away from a career that had once defined him. Because Lily deserved a father who came home every night, who wasn't haunted by the things he'd done, who could be present, steady, safe. But last night, for the first time in 5 years, Nathan had felt something he'd thought was gone forever. Purpose, clarity, the sharp focus that came from knowing exactly what needed to be done and having the skills to do it. And that terrified him. Because if he let himself go back to that place, even for a moment, he wasn't sure he'd be able to come back. He pulled the door closed and walked to his own room. It was sparse. A bed, a dresser, a closet with 3 uniforms, 2 pairs of jeans, and a handful of t-shirts. On the dresser sat a single framed photo. A younger version of Nathan, clean-shaven and wearing fatigues, standing beside 2 other men in similar uniforms. All 3 of them were grinning, arms slung over each other's shoulders. Brothers. That's what they'd called each other. Not by blood, but by bond. Forged in places most people couldn't imagine, and doing things most people couldn't comprehend. Imagine, and doing things most people couldn't comprehend. One of the men in the photo was dead now. Killed in action 7 years ago. The other had retired, moved to Montana, started a ranch. Nathan hadn't spoken to him in over a year. It was easier that way. Easier to leave the past buried. Nathan picked up the photo, staring at the faces. At the man he used to be. Then he set it back down, face down on the dresser, and collapsed onto the bed. He didn't bother changing out of his uniform. He just closed his eyes and let the exhaustion pull him under. He dreamed of parking garages, and amber eyes and the sound of footsteps he couldn't outrun. When Nathan woke up, it was noon. Sunlight streamed through the thin curtains, casting stripes of light across the bedroom floor. He sat up, rubbing his face, and checked his phone. 17 missed calls, 12 text messages, all from the same number. Jenkins. Nathan scrolled through the messages, his stomach sinking with each one. Scott, call me as AP. The CEO wants to meet with you. She's been asking about you all morning. Nathan, seriously, pick up. This is important. HR wants a full report. The board is involved. This is bigger than we thought. Nathan cursed under his breath and dialed Jenkins' number. He picked up on the first ring. Scott, finally, where the hell have you been? Sleeping. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on is that Mia Davis, the CEO of Quantum Technologies, has been calling the security office every hour asking for you. She wants to thank you personally. She wants to know your background. She wants to offer you a promotion. Hell, I think she wants to adopt you. Nathan frowned. A promotion? Yeah, head of personal security. Her personal security, specifically. Apparently she doesn't trust anyone else after last night. And the board is backing her up. They're talking about a 6-figure salary, benefits, the whole 9 yards. Nathan's mind raced. 6 figures. That would change everything. Lily's medical bills. Her therapy, maybe even a better apartment. A better school. But it would also mean being in the spotlight. Being close to Mia Davis. Being pulled back into a world he'd sworn he'd left behind. I need to think about it, Nathan said slowly. Think about it. Scott, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You'd be crazy to turn it down. I have a daughter, Jenkins. I can't just make decisions without considering her. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I get it, but Nathan, this could be really good for you. For both of you, just meet with her. Hear her out. What's the worst that could happen? Nathan closed his eyes. What's the worst that could happen? He could fall back into old habits. He could lose himself again. He could fail Lily. Fine, I'll meet with her. But no promises. That's all I'm asking. She'll be in her office this afternoon. 3 o'clock. Don't be late. The line went dead. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the phone in his hand. 3 o'clock. Just a meeting. Just a conversation. That's all it was. But deep down, Nathan knew better. Because the moment Mia Davis had looked at him in that parking garage, the moment their eyes had met and something unspoken had passed between them, his life had changed. And there was no going back. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, Nathan had showered, changed into his only pair of dress pants and a button-down shirt, and dropped Lily off at her speech therapy appointment. She'd been curious about why he looked so serious, why he was wearing fancy clothes, as she called them, but he deflected with a smile and a promise to take her for ice cream after her session. Now, as he stood in the elevator ascending to the 42nd floor of Quantum Technologies, Nathan felt like he was heading into enemy territory. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing a reception area that looked like it belonged in a modern art museum. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Silverton. Sleek white furniture sat arranged on polished marble floors. A massive digital screen on one wall displayed the company's stock price, fluctuating in real time. And behind a curved glass desk sat a young woman with perfectly styled auburn hair and a Bluetooth earpiece. She looked up as Nathan approached, her professional smile faltering slightly as she took in his appearance. He knew what she was seeing. A security guard, blue collar, out of place. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone polite but cautious. "Nathan Scott, I have a meeting with Ms. Davis at 3. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. She tapped something on her tablet, then nodded. "Of course, Mr. Scott. Ms. Davis is expecting you. Please have a seat. She'll be with you shortly." Nathan sat on one of the white leather chairs, feeling distinctly uncomfortable. The furniture was beautiful, but it wasn't made for sitting. It was made for looking at. He glanced around the reception area, noting the security cameras in each corner, the keycard readers beside every door, the panic button discreetly mounted beneath the receptionist's desk. Professional, thorough, but not enough to stop what had happened last night. His phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chun. "Lily's appointment went well. The therapist says she's making excellent progress. She's asking for you." Nathan smiled and typed back, "Tell her I'll pick her up in an hour." and that I'm proud of her, Mr. Scott." Nathan looked up. A man in his 30s, wearing a tailored suit and carrying a leather portfolio, stood before him. "I'm Gregory Fletcher, Ms. Davis' executive assistant. She's ready to see you now. Follow me, please." Nathan stood and followed Gregory through a set of glass doors, down a hallway lined with abstract paintings, and into a corner office that was somehow even more impressive than the reception area. The space was massive, easily the size of Nathan's entire apartment. One wall was entirely glass, offering an unobstructed view of the city skyline. The opposite wall held floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with leather-bound volumes and tech industry awards. And in the center of the room, behind a desk made of dark wood and chrome, sat Mia Davis. She looked different in daylight. Last night, she'd been disheveled, frightened, vulnerable. Now she radiated authority. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. She wore a navy blazer over a cream-colored blouse, diamond studs in her ears. But her eyes, those striking amber eyes, were the same, sharp, intelligent. Assessing that, she stood as Nathan entered, and Gregory quietly excused himself, closing the door behind him. "Mr. Scott," Mia said, extending her hand. "Thank you for coming." Nathan shook her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "Ms. Davis, please sit." She gestured to a chair across from her desk. Nathan sat, acutely aware of how out of place he felt. Mia remained standing, moving to the window, her hands clasped behind her back. "I've been trying to reach you all morning." "I was asleep, night shift." "Of course." She turned to face him. "I want to start by thanking you for what you did last night. You saved my life." Nathan shifted uncomfortably. "I was just doing my job." "No." Mia's voice was firm. "Security guards don't fight like that. They don't move like that. I've seen the footage from the parking garage. I've watched it at least a dozen times. You neutralized 3 armed men in under 5 seconds. That's not training you get from a 2-week security certification course." Nathan said nothing. He'd known this was coming. The questions, the scrutiny. He just hadn't expected it to happen so quickly. Mia walked back to her desk and pulled out a folder. She opened it, scanning the contents. "I had my team pull your employment file. Nathan Scott, 34 years old. Hired 6 months ago through a third-party security contractor. No criminal record. No social media presence. Previous employment listed as private security work for various firms over the past 5 years. Before that, nothing. It's like you didn't exist before you were 29. Nathan's jaw tightened. "Everyone has a past, Ms. Davis. Mine just isn't relevant to the job I do here. It became relevant the moment you saved my life." She closed the folder and sat down, leaning forward, her elbows on the desk. "I don't know who you are, Nathan Scott, but I know what you are. You're someone with skills that don't come from corporate training programs. Someone who's seen real danger. Someone who knows how to handle it." Nathan met her gaze. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to work for me. Not as a security guard. As my head of personal security." There it was. The offer Jenkins had mentioned. Nathan took a breath. "With all due respect, ma'am, I'm not qualified for that position. You need someone with credentials. Experience in executive protection. A team. I have credentials. I have experience. What I don't have is trust." Mia's voice softened slightly. "Last night, 3 men tried to kidnap me. They knew my schedule. They knew which parking level I use. They knew when I'd be alone. That means someone inside this company gave them that information. Someone I've worked with. Someone I've trusted." Nathan's expression hardened. "You think it was an inside job?" "I know it was. The police are investigating, but these things take time. In the meantime, I need someone I can rely on. Someone who's proven they'll act when it matters. That's you." Nathan shook his head. "You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. I know you saved my life without hesitation. I know you didn't ask for anything in return. I know you left before the police even arrived because you didn't want the attention. That tells me everything I need to know. It tells you I'm a private person who did the right thing. That doesn't make me qualified to run your security." Mia leaned back in her chair, studying him. "You have a daughter." Nathan's blood ran cold. "How do you know that?" "Know that? I had my team do a more thorough background check after you left this morning." Lily Scott, 8 years old. Attends Brookside Elementary. Has a hearing impairment that requires ongoing therapy. You're raising her alone. Nathan stood abruptly, his hands clenched at his sides. "Stay away from my daughter." Mia held up her hands. "I'm not threatening her. I'm making a point. You work the night shift so you can be with her during the day. You drive a 15-year-old truck because every spare dollar goes to her medical expenses. You live in a building with broken elevators because it's what you can afford. You're a good father, Nathan. And good fathers do whatever it takes to provide for their family." Nathan's voice was low, dangerous. "What are you offering?" $200,000 a year. Full health insurance, dental, vision. Coverage for Lily's therapy, her hearing aids, any specialist she needs. A company car. And a signing bonus of $50,000, paid up front. The numbers hit Nathan like a physical blow. 200,000. That was more than 4 times what he made now. That was Lily's college fund. That was moving out of Willow Creek Apartments into a real house. That was security, stability, everything he'd been fighting for. But it was also a trap. He could feel it. What's the catch? Mia stood and walked around the desk, stopping a few feet from him. The catch is that I need you to start immediately. The police believe the men who attacked me last night were hired by a competitor, trying to intimidate me out of a major business deal. But until they know for sure, I'm a target. I need protection. 24/7. You want me to be your bodyguard. I want you to keep me alive. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. 24/7 meant being close to her. Constantly. It meant leaving the shadows, stepping into the light. It meant risk. But it also meant Lily would never have to worry about money again. Never have to watch him work himself to exhaustion just to make rent. Never have to hear him say no to something she wanted because they couldn't afford it. I need time to think about it, Nathan said finally. Mia nodded. You have until tomorrow morning. But Nathan, I need you to understand something. Those men weren't amateurs. They were professionals. And they will try again. If not me, then someone close to me. Someone I care about. And next time, I might not have a hero in the parking garage to save me. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the fear beneath the polished exterior. She was good at hiding it, but it was there. In the tightness around her eyes. The way her hands trembled slightly before she clasped them together. She wasn't just offering him a job. She was asking for help. And despite every instinct telling him to walk away, to protect himself and Lily from whatever storm was coming, Nathan found himself nodding. I'll give you an answer tomorrow. Mia smiled, and for the first time since he'd entered the office, she looked genuinely relieved. Thank you. Nathan turned to leave, but paused at the door. Ms. Davis, if I take this job, there are rules. I do things my way. No interference from corporate. No second-guessing my decisions. And my daughter's safety comes first, always. If there's ever a conflict between protecting you and protecting her, I choose her. Mia didn't hesitate. I wouldn't expect anything less. Nathan nodded and left the office, his mind already spinning with the weight of the decision ahead. As he rode the elevator back down to the ground floor, he pulled out his phone and looked at the photo he kept as his lock screen. Lily, grinning at the camera, her hearing aids visible, her eyes bright with joy. He'd built a life for her. A safe, quiet, predictable life. and now he was about to throw it all into chaos. But maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. Nathan picked Lily up from her speech therapy appointment at 4:30. She bounded out of the building with her usual energy, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders, her smile wide and infectious. "Daddy," she signed, her hands moving quickly. She was getting better every day, more confident in her communication. "Hey, Pumpkin," Nathan signed back, then spoke aloud. "How was therapy?" "Good. Ms. Rivera says I'm doing great with my S sounds. Listen, Saturday, Sunday, sister, snake." "Perfect," Nathan said, ruffling her hair. "You're amazing, you know that?" Lily beamed. "Can we get ice cream now?" "You promised." Nathan glanced at his watch. They had time before dinner. "Sure, Maple Street Creamery?" "Yes." Lily pumped her fist in the air and climbed into the truck. 20 minutes later, they sat in a corner booth at Maple Street Creamery, a small family-owned shop that had been in Silverton for 30 years. Lily had ordered her usual mint chocolate chip, while Nathan nursed a black coffee. He watched his daughter attack her ice cream with the focus of a surgeon, trying to time when to bring up the conversation he'd been dreading. "Lily," he said finally, "I need to talk to you about something." She looked up, green ice cream on her nose. "Am I in trouble?" No, nothing like that. It's about my job." Lily frowned. "You work at night? At the big building?" "Right, but I might be getting a new job." "A different kind of security job, like a police officer?" "Not exactly. More like a bodyguard. Protecting one person instead of a whole building." Lily tilted her head, considering this. "Is it dangerous?" Nathan hesitated. He'd never lied to Lily. She deserved the truth, even if it was complicated. "It could be. But I'd be very careful. And it would mean better pay. Better insurance. We could move to a nicer place. Maybe even a house." Lily's eyes widened. "A house? With a backyard?" "Maybe." She was quiet for a moment, swirling her spoon in the melting ice cream. Then she looked up at him, her expression serious. "Would you be home more or less?" And there it was. The question that mattered most. Nathan had thought about this all afternoon. The logistics. The schedule. The reality of being someone's full-time protection. "Probably less," he admitted. "At least at first. But Lily, this job could change our lives. You could get better therapy. Better doctors. You wouldn't have to worry about money for college." Lily set down her spoon. "Daddy, I don't care about college. I'm 8. I care about you. I don't want you to get hurt." Nathan's throat tightened. He reached across the table and took her small hand in his. "I won't get hurt. I promise. And I'll still be here for you. Every single day. No matter what." Lily searched his face, her eyes, so much like his own, filled with a wisdom that seemed too old for her years. Finally, she nodded. "Okay, if it makes you happy, then it's okay. It's not about making me happy. It's about making sure you have everything you need." "I already have everything I need," Lily said simply. "I have you." Nathan felt something crack open in his chest. He squeezed her hand gently. "I love you, kiddo. I love you too, Daddy." They finished their ice cream in comfortable silence, and as they walked back to the truck, Nathan made his decision. He would take the job. Not just for the money, but because Mia Davis had been right. Good fathers did whatever it took. And if that meant stepping back into a world he'd left behind, then so be it. That night, after Lily was asleep, Nathan sat at the small kitchen table and drafted an email to Mia Davis. It was short, direct, and to the point. "Ms. Davis, I accept your offer. I'll start Monday morning. We need to discuss security protocols, schedules, and threat assessment." I'll also need access to all relevant information about the incident and any ongoing investigations. Regards, Nathan Scott. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. The reply came less than 5 minutes later. Mr. Scott, I'm glad to hear it. I'll have Gregory send over the employment contract tomorrow. In the meantime, I'd like to meet with you this weekend to discuss the details. Are you available Saturday afternoon? Also, I'd like to meet Lily, if you're comfortable with that. I think it's important that she knows who her father is protecting. Best, Mia. Nathan stared at the screen. Meet Lily, that was unexpected. And risky. The more people who knew about his daughter, the more vulnerable she became. But Mia had a point. If he was going to be working closely with her, if he was going to be putting himself in harm's way, Lily deserved to know why. He typed back. Saturday at 2 works. We can meet at Riverside Park. It's public, neutral ground. And yes, you can meet Lily, but if this goes south, if you do anything to put her at risk, the deal is off. Understood? The response was immediate. Understood. See you Saturday. Nathan closed the laptop and leaned back in his chair. He'd crossed a line. There was no going back now. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Nathan spent the morning cleaning the apartment, doing laundry, and making pancakes with Lily. She was in a good mood, chattering about school, about her friends, about the new book she was reading. Nathan listened, memorizing every detail, every laugh, every smile. Because he knew that life was about to get a lot more complicated. At 1:30. They drove to Riverside Park. It was one of Lily's favorite places. A sprawling green space with playgrounds, walking trails, and a large pond where ducks like to congregate. Nathan parked the truck and helped Lily out, carrying a small bag with snacks and bottled water. They found a picnic table near the pond and sat down to wait. Mia Davis arrived 10 minutes later. She drove herself, Nathan noted, in a silver SUV that was probably armored. Smart. She parked nearby and climbed out, dressed casually in jeans, a white sweater, and sunglasses. She looked younger without the business suit. More approachable, human. Without the business suit. More approachable, human. Lily tugged on Nathan's sleeve. Is that her? Yeah, that's her. She's pretty. Nathan couldn't argue with that. Mia walked over, and Nathan stood to greet her. Ms. Davis. Please call me Mia. We're going to be working closely together. Formality seems unnecessary. She turned to Lily and knelt down so they were at eye level. You must be Lily. I've heard wonderful things about you. Lily looked at Nathan, who nodded. Then she looked back at Mia and signed, Thank you. Mia's eyes widened slightly. I don't know sign language. I'm sorry. Lily smiled and spoke aloud. It's okay. Not many people do. I said thank you. Well, you're very welcome. Your dad told me you like ice cream. Is that true? Lily nodded enthusiastically. Me too. Maybe sometime we can all go get some together. Lily glanced at Nathan again, seeking permission. He gave a small nod, and Lily smiled. I'd like that. Mia stood and turned to Nathan. Can we talk? Just for a few minutes? Sure. Lily, stay where I can see you, okay? Okay, Daddy. Lily hopped off the bench and ran toward the playground. Her laughter carried on the breeze. Nathan and Mia walked a short distance away, staying within sight of Lily but out of earshot. Mia spoke first. She's wonderful. She is. You're lucky, I know. Mia turned to face him. I want to be honest with you, Nathan. This job, it's not just about keeping me safe. It's about finding out who's behind the attack. The police have leads, but they're moving slowly. I need someone who can think like an operative, who can anticipate threats, who can act without waiting for approval. You want me to investigate. I want you to do whatever it takes to keep me alive and find out who wants me dead. And I'm willing to pay you very well for it. Nathan crossed his arms. And if I find out it's someone you know, someone you trust, then you tell me, and I deal with it. Nathan studied her. She was serious, determined, and scared, though she hid it well. Okay, but we do this my way. That means I need full access. Your schedule, your emails, your meetings, everything. And if I tell you to do something, you do it. No arguments. Mia nodded. Agreed. And one more thing. If this puts Lily in danger, I walk. No negotiation. I would never let that happen. Nathan wanted to believe her. He wanted to trust that this was just a job, just a paycheck. But something in his gut told him it was going to be more than that. A lot more. Monday morning arrived with a cold front that turned Silverton streets into a maze of gray clouds and biting wind. Nathan dropped Lily off at school, watching until she disappeared through the doors, then drove to Quantum Technologies for his first official day as head of personal security. He'd signed the contract over the weekend. The terms were generous, almost too generous. But Nathan had learned long ago not to look a gift horse in the mouth. If Mia Davis wanted to pay him a small fortune to keep her safe, he'd take it. For Lily, the executive assistant Gregory met him in the lobby. "Mr. Scott, welcome. Miss Davis is expecting you. Follow me, please." They took the elevator to the 42nd floor, and Gregory led him past the reception area to a conference room Nathan hadn't seen before. Inside, Mia sat at the head of a long glass table, flanked by two men in suits. One was older, late 50s, with silver hair and a stern expression. The other was younger, maybe 40, with dark skin and sharp eyes that assessed Nathan the moment he walked in. Mia stood. "Nathan, thank you for coming. This is Richard Caldwell, our Chief Financial Officer, and James Porter, Head of Corporate Security." Nathan shook their hands. Caldwell's grip was firm but perfunctory. Porter's lingered a beat too long, sizing him up. "Pleasure," Porter said, though his tone suggested otherwise. They all sat, and Mia wasted no time. "Gentlemen, as you know, there was an incident in the parking garage last Wednesday. 3 men attempted to abduct me. They were unsuccessful, thanks to Mr. Scott here. But the police believe it was a coordinated attack, likely funded by outside interests." Caldwell leaned forward. "Do we know who's behind it?" "Not yet," Mia said. "But we have reason to believe it's connected to the Vanguard deal." Nathan filed that away. Vanguard. He'd heard the name before, but couldn't place it. Porter spoke up. "With all due respect, Ms. Davis, bringing in an outside contractor to handle your personal security seems premature. We have protocols in place. My team is more than capable of ensuring your safety." Mia's expression didn't change. "Your team didn't stop 3 armed men from cornering me in our own parking garage, James. Mr. Scott did." In under 5 seconds, Porter's jaw tightened. "I've reviewed the footage. Mr. Scott certainly has skills. But we don't know anything about his background. His file is suspiciously thin. For all we know, he could be working with the people who attacked you." Nathan kept his expression neutral, but inside, he was already calculating. Porter was territorial, threatened. That made him either an ally who needed reassurance or a liability who needed watching. "If I were working with them," Nathan said calmly, "Miss Davis would be dead. I had multiple opportunities to let the situation escalate. I didn't." Porter opened his mouth to respond, but Mia cut him off. "Enough, James, I appreciate your concern. But this decision has been made. Nathan is now head of my personal security. You and your team will continue to handle building security and corporate assets. Nathan will focus exclusively on me." Caldwell cleared his throat. "What about the Vanguard deal? If we pull out now, we lose billions." "We're not pulling out," Mia said. "But we're taking precautions. Nathan will accompany me to all meetings, all travel, all public appearances. and we'll be implementing a new protocol. She slid a folder across the table to Nathan. He opened it. Inside was a detailed security plan, routes, safe houses, backup protocols, and something else. A residential address. Nathan looked up. What is this? That's my home address. Or rather, it was. As of today, I'm relocating to a secure property outside the city. And you're coming with me. Nathan blinked. Excuse me? I need 24/7 protection. That means you need to be close. The property has a guest house. Fully furnished. Private entrance. You and Lily will stay there. Nathan's mind raced. Move in with Mia Davis? That wasn't just proximity. That was immersion. That's not part of the agreement. It is now. I'm amending the contract. You and Lily move into the guest house. In exchange, I'll cover all her medical expenses, plus a housing stipend. You'll have access to the main house, the grounds, everything you need. And Lily will be safe. The property is gated, monitored, and far enough from the city that no one will think to look there. Nathan stared at her. This was insane. But it was also smart. If someone was targeting Mia, they might come after him too. After Lily, moving to a secure location made sense. But it also meant giving up their independence, their privacy, their normal life. I need to talk to Lily about this. Of course. But I need an answer by end of business today. The Vanguard deal closes in 2 weeks. If something's going to happen, it'll happen before then. We don't have time to waste. The meeting ended shortly after, and Nathan left the conference room feeling like he'd just been hit by a truck. He called Mrs. Chun on the way back to his truck. Mrs. Chun, it's Nathan. I need a favor. Can you pick Lily up from school today? I'll explain everything later, but something's come up. Of course, dear. Is everything all right? Yeah, just some work stuff, thanks. He spent the rest of the day driving around Silverton, thinking. By the time he picked Lily up from Mrs. Chun's apartment that evening, he'd made his decision. They sat at the kitchen table, and Nathan laid it out as simply as he could. Lily, remember that new job I told you about? She nodded, chewing on a piece of pizza. Well, part of the job means we have to move. Just for a little while. To a safer place. Lily swallowed. Move? Like leave our apartment? Yeah, but not far. And it's temporary. There's a guest house on a big property. It has its own yard, trees, maybe even a garden. Will I have to change schools? No, I'll still drive you every day. Lily was quiet, her brow furrowed. Is this because of the lady you saved? The one we met at the park? Yes, is she in danger? Nathan hesitated. She might be. And my job is to keep her safe. But that also means keeping you safe. And this place, it's got security, cameras, gates. It's the safest option right now. Lily set down her pizza. Okay, but I get to bring Mr. Trunks, right? Nathan smiled. Of course. And all your books. And your art supplies. Anything you want. Then okay. Let's do it. Nathan pulled her into a hug, grateful for her resilience. You're the best, you know that? I know, she said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. 2 days later, Nathan and Lily moved into the guest house on Mia Davis' property. The estate was located in Thornfield Heights, a wealthy enclave 20 minutes outside Silverton. The main house was a sprawling modern structure with floor-to-ceiling windows and clean architectural lines. The guest house sat 100 yards away, nestled among oak trees, with 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, and a living room that overlooked a koi pond. It was the nicest place Nathan had ever lived. And it terrified him. Because now there was no separation. No boundary between work and life. He was all in. And he had no idea where this was going to lead. was going to lead. The first week at Thornfield Heights was an exercise in adjustment. Nathan learned Mia's routines with the precision of someone who'd once memorized enemy patrol patterns. She woke at 5:30 every morning, went for a run through the estate grounds, showered, and was at her desk by 7. She worked until noon, took exactly 30 minutes for lunch, then returned to calls and meetings until 6. After that, she'd retreat to her study or the library, often working until 10 or 11 at night. It was an exhausting schedule. And Nathan shadowed her through every moment of it. He checked every room before she entered. He monitored every phone call, every visitor, every delivery. He reviewed security footage at night while Lily slept, looking for patterns, anomalies, threats. It was consuming, but it was also familiar. And that scared him more than he wanted to admit. Lily, surprisingly, adapted faster than Nathan did. She loved the guest house, loved having her own room with a window that overlooked the koi pond. Mrs. Chun still picked her up from school most days. But now she brought her back to the estate instead of the cramped apartment in Willow Creek, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, Mia became part of their routine. It started small. Mia would wave at Lily from the main house when she was playing in the yard. Then she started joining them for dinner once a week, always bringing something homemade or takeout from places Lily loved. She asked about school, about therapy, about Mr. Trunks, and whether he needed a friend. And Lily, with the openness that only young people possessed, welcomed her in. One evening, about 3 weeks into their arrangement, Nathan was in the kitchen of the guest house making spaghetti when there was a knock at the door. He opened it to find Mia standing there, holding a wrapped package. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said. "Not at all. We're just making dinner. You hungry?" "Actually, I was hoping to give this to Lily, if that's okay." Nathan called Lily over. She appeared from her room, curious. "Hi, Ms. Mia." "Hi, sweetheart. I found something today and thought of you." Mia handed her the package. Lily looked at Nathan, who nodded. She carefully unwrapped it to reveal a book. Not just any book, but a beautifully illustrated edition of a story about a girl who could hear music in colors. Lily's eyes went wide. "This is amazing. The main character uses hearing aids too," Mia said gently. "I thought you might like her." Lily threw her arms around Mia in an impulsive hug. Mia stiffened for just a moment, then relaxed, wrapping her arms around the young girl. When Lily pulled back, she was beaming. "Thank you. Can you stay for dinner? Daddy makes really good spaghetti." Mia glanced at Nathan, who found himself nodding. "Sure, there's plenty." They ate together at the small dining table, Lily dominating the conversation with stories about school and her friends and the duck she'd seen by the pond. Mia listened with genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at Lily's jokes. And Nathan watched, something warm and unfamiliar settling in his chest. After dinner, Lily retreated to her room to read her new book, and Nathan and Mia cleaned up together. They worked in comfortable silence, falling into an easy rhythm. Nathan washed, Mia dried. When they were finished, Mia leaned against the counter, her expression thoughtful. "She's remarkable," Mia said quietly. "You've done an incredible job with her." "I've done my best. Some days it feels like it's not enough." "It is. Trust me, I grew up with every advantage. Money, education, opportunity. But I didn't have what Lily has. A parent who would do anything for her." Nathan heard something in her voice, pain, old and buried. "What about your parents?" Mia's smile was brittle. "My father built quantum technologies from nothing. He was brilliant, driven, obsessed. He died of a heart attack when I was 16. My mother remarried within a year and moved to Europe. I haven't spoken to her in a decade. I'm sorry." "Don't be. It taught me to rely on myself, to not need anyone." She paused. "At least, that's what I told myself. But lately, I'm not so sure." Nathan didn't know what to say, so he didn't say anything. He just stood there, present, and somehow that felt like enough. Mia pushed off the counter. "I should go. Let you have your evening, Mia." She stopped at the door. "Thank you. For the book. For dinner. For everything." She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "Anytime." As the weeks passed, the distance between them shrank. Not physically. Nathan was always close, always vigilant, but emotionally. They started having coffee together in the mornings before Lily woke up. They'd sit on the patio of the guest house, watching the sun rise over the estate, talking about nothing and everything. Mia told him about the pressure of running a company, about the Vanguard deal that was keeping her up at night, about the loneliness that came with being at the top. Nathan told her about his daughter, about the fear that he wasn't doing enough, about the guilt that came with every decision. He didn't tell her about his past. Not the details. But she didn't push. And he was grateful for that. One Saturday afternoon, about a month into their arrangement, Mia found Nathan in the guest house garage. He'd converted part of it into a workshop, and he was bent over an old radio that had belonged to Lily's grandmother, trying to fix a busted capacitor. Mia leaned against the doorframe, watching him work. "You're good with your hands," she observed. Nathan glanced up. "Keeps me busy. Helps me think. Can I watch?" "Sure." Mia pulled up a stool and sat, fascinated as Nathan carefully soldered a connection, his movements precise and controlled. "Where'd you learn to do this?" "Taught myself mostly. When you're deployed somewhere with limited resources, you learn to fix things. Can't just order a replacement part when you're in the middle of nowhere." It was the first time he'd mentioned deployment. Mia noticed but didn't comment. Instead, she pointed to a scar on his forearm. "What's that from?" Nathan glanced at it. "Shrapnel, Iraq, long time ago. You were military." "Yeah." "What branch?" Nathan set down the soldering iron. "Does it matter?" "No, I'm just curious." "About you." He met her gaze. Those amber eyes held something he couldn't quite name. Warmth, trust, maybe even affection. "Special forces. I did things I'm not proud of. Things I can't talk about. When my daughter was born, I realized I couldn't keep doing it. So I got out. Started over. That must have been hard." It was. Still is sometimes. But Lily makes it worth it. Mia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I think you're the bravest person I've ever met." Nathan shook his head. "I'm not brave. I'm just trying to survive. That's what makes you brave." They sat in the garage for another hour. Nathan working on the radio while Mia asked questions about circuits and resistors and how everything connected. It was comfortable, easy, and when the radio finally crackled to life, playing a scratchy version of an old jazz song, Mia clapped her hands together like she'd won the lottery. "You did it!" Nathan smiled. "We did it." That night, after Lily was asleep, Nathan sat on the patio, a beer in hand, staring up at the stars. He heard footsteps and turned to see Mia approaching, wrapped in a cardigan, 2 mugs in her hands. "Couldn't sleep," she said, handing him a mug. "Hot chocolate, me neither." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. Finally Mia spoke. "Nathan, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why did you really leave the military?" "I know you said it was because of Lily, but I feel like there's more to it." Nathan took a long breath. He'd never told anyone this. Not Mrs. Chun, not the few friends he'd had over the years. But sitting here, under the stars, with Mia beside him, it felt like the right time. "My last mission," he said slowly. "We were sent to extract a high-value target. Intelligence said he was alone. But when we got there, he wasn't. He had his family with him. A wife, 2 kids. Mia's hand found his. She didn't say anything. Just held on. We completed the mission. got the target. But those kids watched their father get dragged away, watched us invade their home. And I realized that to them, we weren't heroes. We were monsters. I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't be that person. So you became this person instead. The one who saves people. I try. Mia squeezed his hand. You do more than try. You succeed. Every single day. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, and something shifted. Something he'd been fighting for weeks, maybe longer. He cared about her. Not just as a job. Not just as a responsibility. But as a person. Someone who made him laugh, who challenged him, who saw him for who he was and didn't flinch. And that terrified him. Because caring meant vulnerability. And vulnerability meant risk. But as Mia leaned her head on his shoulder, her hand still in his, Nathan realized he was already in too deep. And maybe, just maybe, that was okay. The Vanguard deal was set to close on a Friday. It was a massive acquisition, worth billions, that would position quantum technologies as the dominant player in artificial intelligence software. Mia had been working toward it for 2 years, navigating regulatory hurdles, shareholder concerns, and corporate espionage. Now, they were 72 hours away from signing, and the tension in the air was electric. Nathan had increased security protocols. He'd vetted every person who would be in the building during the signing. He'd coordinated with local law enforcement and hired additional private security. But something felt off. He couldn't name it, couldn't point to a specific threat, but his instincts were screaming that something was wrong. His instincts were screaming that something was wrong. On Tuesday afternoon, Nathan was reviewing security footage from the previous night when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello? Nathan Scott? The voice was distorted, run through some kind of filter. Male, probably. But it was hard to tell. Who is this? Someone who wants to give you a warning. Walk away from Mia Davis. Take your daughter and disappear. You have 24 hours. Nathan's blood went cold. If you touch my daughter, I'll destroy you. I'm not interested in your daughter. I'm interested in you staying out of my way. Mia Davis is a problem that needs to be solved. You're just collateral damage. But if you walk away now, you and the girl get to live. The line went dead. Nathan immediately called a secure number, one he hadn't used in 5 years. It rang twice before a gruff voice answered. This better be important. Garrett, it's Nathan. There was a pause. Nathan Scott. Hell, I thought you fell off the planet. I did. But I need a favor. I need you to trace a call. What kind of trouble are you in? The kind that involves a contract on someone I'm protecting. Garrett Flynn had been Nathan's commanding officer during his last tour. They'd kept loose contact after Nathan left, but mostly they'd drifted apart. Different lives. Different worlds. But Garrett was also one of the best intelligence analysts Nathan had ever worked with. If anyone could trace that call, it was him. Send me the details. I'll see what I can do. But Nathan, if this is as serious as it sounds, you need to get that person to safety. Now. I know. Thanks, Garrett. Nathan hung up and immediately went to find Mia. She was in her office, on a video call with her legal team. He waited until she finished, then closed the door behind him. We need to talk. Mia looked up, concern flickering across her face. What's wrong? I got a call. Someone threatening you. They gave me 24 hours to walk away or things get bad. Mia's expression hardened. Did they say who they were? No, voice was distorted. But they knew about Lily, which means they've been watching us. We need to contact the police. Already on it. But Mia, I think we should postpone the Vanguard signing. Give us time to figure out who's behind this. Absolutely not. If we postpone, the deal falls apart. Vanguard walks. And 2 years of work goes down the drain. Better than you ending up dead. Mia stood, her jaw set. I'm not letting these people win. I'm not letting them take away what I've built. We go forward. With increased security. With every precaution. But we go forward. Nathan wanted to argue. Wanted to throw her over his shoulder and drive her somewhere safe until this blew over. But he could see the determination in her eyes. The same stubborn resolve that had built a tech empire from her father's legacy. She wasn't going to back down. Fine, but we do this my way. You don't go anywhere without me. You don't meet with anyone I haven't vetted. And if I say we leave, we leave. No arguments, agreed. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He checked the security feeds every hour, walked the perimeter of the estate twice, and sat in his truck in the driveway with a loaded handgun in the glove compartment. At 3 a.m, he saw movement near the main house. A shadow, quick and low, moving along the tree line. Nathan was out of the truck in seconds, moving silently through the darkness. He reached the shadow just as it tried to scale the fence. One hand on the back of the neck, one knee in the spine, and the intruder was on the ground. Who sent you? Nathan growled. The man, young, maybe mid-20s, gasped for air. I'm just a messenger man. I was paid to deliver a package. What package? At the gate. In a box. I swear, I don't know what's in it. Some guy gave me $500 to drop it off. Nathan zip-tied the man's hands and called the police. Then he went to the gate. Sure enough, there was a small box wrapped in brown paper. Nathan photographed it from every angle before carefully opening it with a knife. Inside was a single item. A photo. Of Lily, taken yesterday at school. On the back, written in red ink, "Last warning." Nathan felt something break inside him. A dam he'd been holding back for weeks. They'd gone after his daughter. They'd crossed the line. And now there were no more rules. He took the photo and marched into the main house. Mia was in the kitchen, making tea, unable to sleep. She looked up as Nathan entered, saw his face, and froze. What happened? He showed her the photo. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, Nathan, I'm so sorry. I never thought they'd go after Lily. This ends now. I'm pulling her out of school. I'm sending her somewhere safe. And then I'm finding whoever did this and making sure they never threaten anyone I care about again. Mia set down her tea, her hands shaking. I'll call off the deal. I'll do whatever it takes to keep her safe. No, we're finishing this. But we're doing it my way. Nathan pulled out his phone and made a call. It was answered on the first ring. Garrett, I need a safe house. Somewhere off the grid. For a kid and a caretaker. I've got a place in Montana, remote, secure. I'll send you the coordinates. Thanks. I owe you. Just stay alive, Nathan. By dawn, Nathan had Mrs. Chun and Lily packed and on a private flight to Montana. Lily had cried, begging him to come with her, but Nathan had knelt down and looked her in the eyes. I need you to be brave for me, Pumpkin. Just for a few days. Mrs. Chun will be with you. And when this is over, I'll come get you. I promise. You promise you won't get hurt? Nathan pulled her into a fierce hug. I promise. As the plane took off, Nathan felt a piece of himself go with it. But he also felt something else. Clarity, purpose. The same feeling he'd had in the Perkin garage that first night. Someone needed protecting. And he was the only one who could do it. Now it was time to finish this. For Lily, for Mia, for himself. The day of the Vanguard signing arrived with a storm rolling in from the coast. Dark clouds gathered over Silverton, and the air felt charged, heavy with the promise of rain. Nathan had barely slept in the 3 days since sending Lily away. He'd spent every waking moment coordinating with Garrett, reviewing intelligence, and tightening security. And now, standing in the lobby of Quantum Technologies, dressed in a dark suit with an earpiece and a concealed weapon. He felt like he was back in the field, alert, focused, ready. Mia emerged from the elevator, flanked by her legal team and several executives. She wore a navy suit, her hair pulled back, her expression composed. But Nathan saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes scanned the room. She was scared, and trying hard not to show it. Everything in place? She asked quietly as she approached. As much as it can be. But Mia, if anything feels off, I'm pulling you out. No hesitation, understood. They rode the elevator to the conference room on the 40th floor. The Vanguard representatives were already there, a team of 5 lawyers and executives, along with their own security. Nathan positioned himself near the door, eyes constantly moving, assessing every person, every movement. The signing took an hour. Documents were reviewed, signatures collected, hands were shaken. And through it all, Nathan waited for the other shoe to drop. It didn't. The deal closed without incident. Champagne was poured. Photos were taken. And Mia Davis officially became one of the most powerful tech CEOs in the world. But Nathan didn't relax. Because threats didn't always come when you expected them. Sometimes they waited until you let your guard down. As the Vanguard team left, and the conference room emptied, Nathan pulled Mia aside. We need to talk, privately. They went to her office. Nathan locked the door and closed the blinds. Garrett traced the call. It came from a burner phone registered to a shell company. But he dug deeper and found connections to James Porter. Mia's face went pale. James? My head of corporate security? He's been on someone's payroll for months. Feeding information about your schedule, your routines, your security protocols. The kidnapping attempt, the threats, all of it traces back to him. Why? What does he gain? Money, and a promise of a position at a competitor once you were out of the way. Garrett's already contacted the FBI. They're moving in to arrest him now. Mia sank into her chair, the weight of the betrayal hitting her. I trusted him. I've worked with him for 3 years. Nathan knelt beside her chair. People lie. They hide who they really are. But not everyone. Not me. Not Lily, you can trust us. Mia looked at him, tears threatening to spill. I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. One feel terrified. Nathan took her hand. That's normal. But you survived. You fought. And you won. That's what matters. Mia's phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. FBI just arrested James Porter in the parking garage. They found evidence linking him to the kidnapping and threats. It's over. Nathan exhaled, the tension finally leaving his body. It's over. Mia stood, pulling Nathan to his feet. I need to see Lily. I need to tell her she's safe. I'll call Garrett. Get them back here. 2 days later, Lily returned to Thornfield Heights. She ran off the plane and into Nathan's arms, holding him so tight he thought his ribs might crack. I missed you, Daddy. I missed you too, Pumpkin. So much. That evening, the 3 of them sat together in the guest house, eating pizza and watching a movie Lily had picked out. It was mundane, ordinary, perfect. When Lily fell asleep on the couch between them, Nathan carefully lifted her and carried her to bed. When he returned, Mia was standing by the window, looking out at the estate. Thank you, she said softly. For everything. Nathan joined her. I was just doing my job. No, you were protecting your family. Both of us, Lily and me. Nathan turned to look at her. Is that what we are, family? Mia smiled, and it was the most genuine expression he'd ever seen on her face. I'd like to think so. If you'll have me. Nathan reached out and took her hand. I think Lily would like that. And so would I. Mia stepped closer, her free hand coming up to rest on his chest. "Nathan Scott, I know this started as a job, a contract. But somewhere along the way, it became something else. Something real. And I don't want to let that go." Nathan's heart pounded. He'd spent so long keeping people at arm's length, protecting himself from pain, from loss. But standing here with Mia, he realized that walls only kept you safe if you were willing to live alone. And he wasn't, not anymore. "Neither do I," he said quietly. Mia rose on her toes and kissed him. It was soft, tentative, like she was afraid he might pull away. But Nathan didn't pull away. He wrapped his arms around her and kissed her back, pouring every unsaid word, every hidden feeling into that moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Mia rested her forehead against his. "So what now?" Nathan smiled. "Now we figure it out, together." In the months that followed, life settled into a new rhythm. Mia continued to run quantum technologies, but she made time for dinners with Nathan and Lily, for weekends at the estate, for movie nights and board games, and all the small moments that built a life. Nathan took on a permanent role as head of security, but he also found time to fix things, to teach Lily how to solder circuits, to sit on the patio with Mia and watch the stars. And Lily, bright and resilient as ever, thrived. She called Mia by her first name at first, then slowly, hesitantly, started calling her something else. Something that made Nathan's chest tighten with emotion every time he heard it. One Sunday morning, 6 months after the Vanguard deal closed, the three of them sat in the garden, planting flowers. Lily was covered in dirt, laughing as she tried to dig a hole big enough for a rose bush. Mia knelt beside her, showing her how to loosen the roots. And Nathan watched, a feeling of contentment washing over him that he'd never thought possible. "Daddy," Lily called. "Mia says we can plant a vegetable garden next. Can we grow tomatoes?" Nathan grinned. "Whatever you want, pumpkin." Lily turned to Mia. "Can you help me?" "I don't know how." Mia smiled. "Of course I can. We'll learn together." And as Nathan watched his daughter and the woman he loved work side by side, dirt under their nails and sunshine on their faces, he realized that this was what he'd been searching for all along. Not safety, not security, but home. And he'd finally found it. 2 years later, on a crisp autumn morning, Nathan Scott stood in front of a small brick building on the corner of Ashford Street in downtown Silverton. The storefront had been empty for months before Mia had surprised him with the keys on his birthday. She'd smiled that knowing smile of hers and said, "You're always fixing things for me and Lily. Maybe it's time you fixed things for other people too." The sign above the door read "Second Chances Workshop" in simple black letters. No fancy logo. No corporate branding. Just a promise. Inside, the space was warm and welcoming. Workbenches lined one wall, filled with tools Nathan had collected over the years. Donated appliances, radios, lamps, and electronics filled shelves waiting to be repaired. A small seating area near the front window held mismatched chairs and a coffee maker that was always on. And on the wall behind the counter hung a single framed photo of Nathan, Mia, and Lily at Lily's 10th birthday party. All three of them laughing, covered in cake frosting. Nathan had opened the workshop 6 months ago with a simple philosophy. If you needed something fixed and couldn't afford to pay, he'd fix it anyway. If you could pay, whatever you contributed went into a fund to help others. The community had embraced it immediately. Within weeks, people were lining up outside the door. Single parents with broken washing machines. Elderly residents with televisions that had stopped working. Students with laptops that wouldn't turn on. Nathan fixed them all, but it wasn't just about the repairs. It was about the conversations. The connections. The veteran who came in with a busted radio and stayed for an hour talking about the weight of coming home. The teenager who brought in a gaming console and left with advice about trade schools. The woman who needed her late husband's watch repaired and cried when Nathan handed it back, ticking perfectly. Nathan had learned that sometimes people didn't need a hero. They just needed someone who would show up and listen. The door chimed, and Nathan looked up from the laptop he was working on. A man in his 50s entered, holding a small wooden jewelry box. "Are you Nathan Scott?" "I am. How can I help you?" The man set the box on the counter. "My wife passed away 3 months ago. This box, it plays a song when you open it. Our wedding song. But it stopped working. I took it to 3 different repair shops, and they all said it was beyond fixing. But my neighbor said if anyone could do it, it'd be you." Nathan picked up the box carefully, examining the mechanism inside. The spring was worn, the cylinder damaged. It would take time, precision, but it was possible. "I can fix it. Might take a few days." The man's eyes filled with tears. "How much?" "Whatever you think it's worth when I'm done." The man nodded, too emotional to speak, and left. Nathan set the music box aside and made a note to work on it tonight after closing. These were the repairs that mattered most. The ones that carried memories, love, loss. The door chimed again. This time it was Lily, her backpack bouncing as she skipped inside. She was 10 now, taller, more confident. Her hearing aids were decorated with tiny butterfly stickers she'd picked out herself. She waved at Nathan, then immediately went to the community board on the wall where people posted thank you notes and photos. "Daddy, look. Someone fixed their grandmother's clock and she wrote you a letter." Nathan walked over and read the note. It was from an elderly woman thanking him for bringing back a piece of her history. He smiled. "That's nice. You're like a superhero, but for broken things. I'm just a guy who knows how to use a screwdriver." Lily rolled her eyes. "You're more than that, and you know it." The door opened again, and Mia walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a bag from the bakery down the street. She'd cut back her hours at Quantum Technologies, delegating more to her executive team so she could spend time on things that mattered. Like surprise coffee deliveries. Like family dinners every night. Like being present. "Hey, you too. I brought sustenance." Lily ran over and hugged her. "Hi, Mom." Nathan's heart still skipped a beat every time Lily called Mia that. They'd gotten married a year ago in a small ceremony at the estate. Just close friends, Mrs. Chun, Garrett Flynn, who'd flown in from Montana, and Lily, who'd been the flower girl and the ring bearer and the most enthusiastic guest all at once. It hadn't been about spectacle or status. It had been about family. About commitment. About choosing each other every single day. Mia handed Nathan his coffee and kissed his cheek. "How's business?" "Fixed 4 toasters, 2 hairdryers, and a vintage record player. And I've got a music box that's going to take some time, but will be worth it." "You're changing lives, you know that?" Nathan shrugged. "I'm just giving people their stuff back." "No, you're giving them hope. You're showing them that broken things can be fixed." "That's powerful." Lily tugged on Mia's sleeve. "Can we go to the park after? I want to practice my speech presentation." "Of course, sweetheart. Your dad and I will be your audience." As the afternoon wore on, more people filtered in and out. A college student with a broken tablet. A construction worker with a radio that had stopped working. A young mother with a baby monitor that kept cutting out. Nathan greeted each one, assessed the damage, and promised to do what he could. Some repairs took minutes. Others would take days. But he approached each one with the same care, the same attention, the same commitment to making things right. At 5 o'clock, Nathan flipped the sign to closed and locked the door. Lily was at the workbench, carefully organizing screws by size, something she'd insisted on helping with. Mia sat in one of the chairs by the window, reading through emails on her phone but looking up every few seconds to watch them work. This was their routine now. Nathan would close the shop, they'd all go home together. And they have dinner as a family. Simple, ordinary, perfect. As they walked to the car, Lily between them holding both their hands, Nathan thought about how far they'd come. From that night in the parking garage when he'd been just another invisible security guard, to this moment, walking down a city street with his wife and daughter, feeling more content than he'd ever imagined possible. He'd spent years running from his past, from the violence, from the weight of decisions that had haunted him. But he'd learned something important along the way. You couldn't outrun who you were, but you could choose who you wanted to become. And Nathan had chosen this. A life built on small acts of kindness, on fixing broken things, whether they were radios or people or fractured trust, on showing up day after day and doing the work that mattered. That night, after Lily was asleep and the house was quiet, Nathan and Mia sat on the patio of their home, the same estate where it had all begun. The koi pond reflected the moonlight. Crickets sang in the distance. Mia leaned against Nathan's shoulder, his arm wrapped around her. Do you ever think about what your life would be like if you hadn't been in that parking garage that night? She asked. Nathan considered the question. Sometimes. I'd probably still be working night shifts, still struggling to make ends meet, still keeping my head down, and I'd probably be dead, or traumatized, or both, maybe, or maybe someone else would have saved you. Mia shook her head. No, it had to be you. I really believe that. You were exactly where you needed to be. Exactly when I needed you. Nathan kissed the top of her head. Maybe we saved each other. Maybe we did. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that came from knowing someone so completely that words weren't always necessary. And as Nathan looked up at the stars, he thought about all the broken things he'd fixed, all the lives he'd touched, all the second chances he'd been given. This was his purpose now. Not protecting assets or neutralizing threats or living in shadows, but building something real. Something lasting, something that mattered, and he'd never been happier. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.